Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Tammy J show. This is Tammy J and I am so excited. This is the very first podcast. This is exciting stuff. You may not be as excited as I am, but I'm telling you, this is an awesome time. So, I know you're asking, why did I want to start a podcast? I'm going to tell you, who am I? I'm going to tell you that too. But first, the intro music, don't you just love it? It's like one of those beats that if you're walking down the street and you're listening to it, you start walking according to the beat. I love it. When I first heard it, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is going to be the intro music for the podcast, because you know what? It happens. That's the name of the show, Tammy J. It happens. Now, why would you name a show It Happens? Because you all know it does happen. The craziest things happen. So let me give you a little background about who I am. I am Tammy J. I am from the Philadelphia area. I then moved after college to the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And then I recently just moved to New York. My move to New York has been quite interesting, and believe me, I will share it all with you. I've even started a blog. It is tjmovetony.blogspot.com. If you don't remember that, go to tammyj.net. There you will be able to capture my journey as I've been in the New York area. It has been very interesting, comical, and even some tears have been shed. However, I've been in New York for about a month now, and it has been absolutely hot, number one. I am actually right now sweating because in order to do this podcast, I need to cut off the fan and the air condition. You want to know why? Because buildings in New York do not have central air. You think I'm joking? My realtor, she laughed at me. I'm used to central air. I'm thinking that is a norm. No, not in New York. And if you're walking down the street, you're bound to get wet because everybody has an air conditioning unit, and you all know it drips water. So don't walk too close to the buildings. Anyway, I'm in New York and I am in the process of looking for a job. I'm in the process of finding an apartment, writing several books, finishing my dissertation. Please don't quote me on this because it's about to be 7 years. So maybe the listeners can help me stay on top of finishing my dissertation by June 2014. Hopefully that is the case because I really do need to finish this. I'm also in the process of starting an online business, and I have some great TV show ideas. So I have started playing around with writing some TV scripts. That is something new and very different for me. However, I am very ambitious, as you will soon find out, and there is nothing that I don't think that I can do. There may be some things that I want to do, but there's nothing that I don't think I can do. I think. All right. And that's really what this podcast is going to be about. So, as you can tell, I'm very busy. But for the month of July, what I'm going to be focusing on is the book that I'm writing. The book is called Don't Be That Parent. Now, I know that you're probably like, what is she about to talk about? Don't Be That Parent. Let me just give one disclaimer. One, no, I'm not a parent. I am not. I do not have any kids as of yet. Any kids that I have birthed, I'll put it that way. However, I am a school administrator, and the things that I have seen come through my office and the stories that I have heard and the news reports that I have read, oh yes, you better believe it, I plan on talking about it. Okay, so the one thing that I think is going to be comical about this book, well, first of all, the whole book is going to be just purely comedy anyway. But just like with anything, there will be some truth under all of this. There will be some things to really reflect on. So for the month of July, I'm going to focus on that. We're going to have a parent come on the show next week. We're going to have a teacher come on the show. And we will also have a school administrator come on the show. and they're going to talk about their experiences. They're going to, provide some advice, and they're going to talk about the book a little bit. The book has not been published yet. I'm still in the process of finalizing it, but it is coming and you have to get it. Okay, the book is called Don't Be That Parent. It is going to be absolutely funny, and I'm sure there will be sequels and other things to come after that, like Don't Be That Mother, or Don't Be That Father, or Don't Be That Teacher. You know how these things go. But before we get started, here's how the podcast is going to go. I'm going to give a little intro and give a story about something that I've seen or heard in this New York area. And then I'm going to give you a word of the week. Now, I have to give this word because you're going to hear me use it often. The word for the week is trifling. Now, here we go. Trifling, I'm not talking about the Webster definition for the word trifling, which is small, minute, little. Trifling, I'm using the colloquial term, which means ridiculous. It means uncalled for. You shouldn't have done that. It is beyond. That's trifling. So if I say, oh, he's trifling, that means he was just absolutely ridiculous, or it was something nasty, or that's trifling. And so it takes it to another level. So if you hear me use it, please know I'm not saying it's small or trifle. I'm saying it's ridiculous, okay? So trifling, that is going to be the word for the week. But I have to put that on the first podcast because it is something that is going to be used quite often. So my move to New York has been interesting. I started a blog, and you can find the blog at tjmovetoNY.blogspot.com. If you don't remember that, just go to my website, TammyJ.net. That's TammyJ.net. Again, this website, you will be able to find the blog and the podcast. However, all you podcast listeners and people that have iTunes, iPods, and iPhones, please go to iTunes and write a review. Listen to it. Subscribe to the podcast, because I need to get the reviews up so I can be listed on the What's Hot and New section. I'm really excited about this. So please, I need your help. Check it out. I want you to, give your feedback, because if I don't hear from you, I don't know that you're listening. Okay? Same with the blog. If you visit the blog and you want to comment, please comment. I really want you to comment, because I really want to know what you think, and I really am curious about what things are standing out to you, because on the blog, as you will see, it's just me giving my journey, and it is absolutely funny but also ridiculous. The things that I have encountered on there have been, why did that happen to me? Like, why was I there? You know what? Is this just like this thing so I can put this on the blog, or so I can talk about this on the podcast? So I am in the process of finding a job, and I'm also in the process of finding an apartment. But as you know, in order to get an apartment, you need to have a job. So I am renting a room, and that has been interesting all in itself. I've been on my own for years, close to a decade now. It's been interesting making that transition. So you'll hear me tell all of my stories and things like that. Oh, the other thing about living in New York, the train. So when I wanted to move to New York, I was so excited because I drove everywhere. In order to live where I lived in Maryland, you need to drive everywhere, all right? So I drove everywhere, but I was so excited about coming to New York because I was going to be able to get on a train, and I was going to be able to see the people and blah, blah, blah. It is like candid camera on that train. The things that you see are ridiculous. I mean, I have witnessed the craziest things on the train. And so I'm going to start every week off with some event that I experienced, or I even may go back to an event on the blog. For instance, on the blog, you'll see, I believe it happened in June. One day I was on the train, and it was early in the morning, and I was trying to get to work. And a guy comes on and you can tell that he is pretty, he's, a little GQ, he has creased jeans, he has sunglasses on, he's, built like a football player, not a big football player, maybe like a quarterback or something like that. His shirt is ironed and he has on a jacket, but it was hot, so I know he was hot. However, he didn't look hot. It was like one of those things, like he was just cool. Well, he had his iPhone earplugs on, and he was listening to some music. I saw him bob his head a couple of times, and I understand, you bob your head when you listen to the music. It's just like the intro music. If you listen to that, you're probably going to bob your head. What I do is I bob my head, but I act like the train is bobbing my head for me. That's just me trying to be incognito. However, I digress. So he's bobbing his head, and it's packed on this train. I mean, when I say packed, I mean butt to butt. We are packed on this train. So it's 5 people holding on to the bars, and he's holding on to the same bar that I'm holding on to. So, the train goes on, and he bobs his head, and we're like, okay, I didn't really pay much attention to it. But then he, did a little dip, like he bent his knees and went down a little bit. So I'm thinking to myself, I didn't just see that. The train must have hit some sort of bump or swerved, and then he dipped. That had to have been the case. So maybe he, got a Charlie horse or something. So a little bit more time goes on. Again, we are butt to butt on this train. Don't you know, he started bobbing his head, swaying and dipping on the pole. It got so bad, the one lady that was on the pole, remember, it was 5 people on the pole. One lady moved because he started literally swaying. So he started dipping and bobbing and moving from side to side. We're like, uh-oh. So I'm thinking to myself, it's about to go down. What is this man about to do? So it looked like he, how when you're on a train, your arms are, or the way his arms were bent the way he was holding on to the train. So he had one arm, his right arm on the pole, and then he grabbed it with his left arm. After he grabbed it with his left arm, he extended, like backed up away from the pole, like he was about to straddle the pole. I said, oh no, it's time to go. So I had to get off the train at that point. It was my stop, but I just didn't want to see any more because the other people on the train were trying to look around like this was not happening. Apparently that's a New York thing. If you ignore it, it's not happening. I'm like, y'all people are crazy. And maybe that's just the survival mode. Well, my survival tactic is to hide behind a column. I look and then I turn away. But that's the one thing about New York. These people will look at you and keep on walking and act like you do not exist. So that's the New York train system for you. Now, the other part of the show is going to be a current event. And this is a current event. However, it is a little old. Because when I first said I wanted to start a podcast, it was maybe May or June. But this happened, and I just thought it was something that I wanted to talk about. So, Michelle Obama was giving a speech at a private home, and there was a heckler who started to heckle her. And she basically left the podium and went to the woman and basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, you can look it up if you want, and said, you're either going to talk or I'm going to talk. But if you talk, I'm leaving, and went to give her the microphone. So the woman, or the heckler, was saying later that she was appalled by this, and she said Michelle Obama was right near her nose and she couldn't believe it. But I thought to myself, good for you, Michelle. I'm glad that you decided to deal with that. She's not Barack. Barack is a lot more diplomatic about those things. But, the media tried to paint her like she was just this angry black woman. And one reporter said that, that wasn't her finest moment. I beg to differ. I actually think it was one of her finest moments. If you want to be rude, and apparently that's something new or something that is acceptable, being rude. In New York, people are rude. They jump in front of you all the time. That's what they do. I'm still trying to get used to it. Anyway, you want to be rude when someone confronts you and deals with it head on, then I don't think that you should be appalled by that. You're the one that went to her function to disrupt her and to be rude. So she just acknowledged your rudeness, and two, since you want the floor, you can have it. And I say, good for you, Michelle Obama. I love her. I thought that the way she handled that was classy.